All right, welcome back to the Power 2. Look at this is different. On site. This is crazy. All right, show him, Cole. Just go ahead and show him. Look at what listen. Yeah, Diet Coke and Tom's ringless.
I came unprepared. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he didn't want anything.
I'm trying to take it slow. Cole doesn't know the definition of the word slow.
Hell no.
So
I think everyone knows that at this point.
I'm on vacation.
It's a Monday. We're in that.
yeah, it's Monday at noon. Let's drink a massive beer. This is different.
It's fantastic.
I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, it's cool to do this in person. We're live on site at Neighbors. There's 5 locations, but we're at the Germantown location. I can't wait to pump in a bunch of crowd noise and make it sound like when I do the post-production on this. But Neighbors in Germantown in Nashville, which is a cool spot to be. Tom says he's actually been here before.
I've been walking distance from this place. I've been here before like 3 years ago, so I live here. This has been the easiest commute to work in my life.
Yeah. So we came in town not only to see Tom, but also for the FCS National Championship tonight. So if you love football, I want you to prove how much you love football like we are. Going to, like, people are, there's only 3 games left. No, there's a game tonight.
There's 4.
Yeah, there's an actual real live college football game tonight in
With
Nashville.
a Cinderella story in the Illinois State Redbirds that found a way to beat up on everybody, including Villanova, to guarantee their spot in a trip to Nashville.
We're not doing a full FCS Championship breakdown here today. But
I mean, we could.
Let me tell you about Brawl of the Wild real fast.
If you don't know about Tarleton State, Texas, let's explain where this goes.
Do you have a rooting interest and then like a pick?
Yeah, I think that when you look at Brett Vegan coming on back for Montana State, he had offers from multiple schools at the new Pac-12 level, was getting interest for Washington State and then Oregon State. If you're going to come back, you have to believe that you could be the next big-time team in the FCS level. North Dakota State, they were the number 1 seed. They got upset in their first matchup. So really going to be interesting to see if the Bobcats can continue. They've been knocking on the door for the last few years. They played last season out in Dallas. They lost to North Dakota State. I think that right now, this is where the Cinderella story comes to an end for Illinois State.
I loved watching Montana versus Montana State. I watched that pretty intently, so I unfortunately haven't gotten to see a lot of Illinois State's run, but I want chaos within the game. I still think Montana State is going to pull it out. I think they're favored by 10.5, the last I checked. Montana State was extremely impressive against Montana to the point that I was watching a team just slowly break the other team's will late into the game. Running the football extremely well, play action pass, great defense, winning in the trenches, like classic football. And also, I have a ton of respect for Montana football fans going out in that weather because I went to the Music City Bowl the other week right here in Nashville. I'm like, this will be great. It was like 20 degrees out. I was like, this is horrible. These people are dealing in like negative temperatures in their underwear. I was like, these are a different breed. So I'm excited to be around them and see what it's like.
So you know what I can appreciate? I got a text from a buddy who lives out in Nashville, and he said, you will not believe how many Bobcat faithful have made the trip on down.
I've seen them all over
They're
already.
all over the place. They had a watch party on Saturday. They were fully invested in the college football playoff. They have been here waiting for this moment, and out at First Bank Stadium tonight, they can potentially win a national championship.
I'm thankful that it's going to be a little bit warmer.
Just a little bit.
Like,
and
35-ish.
Fans from First Bank Stadium. Fans from First Bank Stadium will actually see a national championship this year.
Boy.
I'm sorry. Oh, all the Vandy fans.
Will your guy be there?
Sorry.
Why you got to this Diego Pavia?
I love it. Oh, it's my favorite.
He's actually doing a kickstand right over there. If we could turn the camera around, you'd see it. I would like to see. So I've got some friends that moved to Montana, and so they weren't Montana State fans; they were Montana fans. And so, but I'd like to see Montana win because they live there. That said, I'd like to see an upset. So give me the upset.
So you want Illinois State?
A little chaos.
Give
me some chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the Cinderella run stays alive for them, that means that potentially Ole Miss or Miami, they could be on the Cinderella run.
Well, I certainly prefer one of those other than the other, but I'm excited to watch the game with you guys, and a game where we really don't have a rooting interest. Like, I don't know if you guys, you've done this. Well, kind of. You go to games and you hate everyone, and then you just did it the other night. But going to a game where you don't have a rooting interest is the most freeing, relaxing.
So
like,
nice.
I've been to Alabama, LSU. I've been to Clemson, Notre Dame. I've been to Alabama, Georgia, and just when you don't care and everyone around you is just on pins and needles, and you're just like, dude, this is just relaxing. Now, I don't know how relaxing it'll be in like 40-degree weather. I bought some thermals because I'm a Tampa boy, but yeah, I think it should be fun. So
Are you really going to let the Texas kid wore you out when it comes to
yes,
the
yes, I won't say the word, but I'm a B word.
Dude,
So
I grew up in Philadelphia. I moved to Orlando for 3 years. My skin immediately turned into Floridian skin. So going to the Music City
You're
Bowl.
done.
I will say this. I also went to the game with no rooting interest between Tennessee and Illinois. But like as a Penn State guy, some Big Ten interest. I guess
Sure.
the most I could say. Friends that I went with were UT fans. And as the game progressed, I guess just the adjutant and shit stirrer in me was just like, it just means more in the Big Ten. And to see them pull it out at the end, I was like, it just means a little bit more.
means
And
a little bit more.
every reason in the book as to why they could have won but didn't win, it was delicious.
So there is a playoff this week.
Yep.
And we'll start with the game on Thursday night, Miami and Ole Miss. I think we all predicted Georgia, and I think we all predicted Ohio State.
Yep.
So, of course, we got neither of those teams in. And I think I said this when we did our recaps, but I do think we got a better game. And if you care about logos, I'm sorry for your loss. But if you care about good football, I think we got matchup stylistically that is very contrasting. I think we got two great stories from Miami figuring it out once the second half of the season rolled around, and then Ole Miss doing this without Lane Kiffin with all the drama that's going on there. I am excited for Oregon and Indiana. I don't want to downplay that. I could not be more excited to see Trinidad Chambliss and Ruben Bain and Malachi Toney and all those guys on the field again on Thursday night. SEC, can they get a win against a non-SEC team in the playoff?
I mean, it'll be the first time that we see it this year, which will be really funny. But what I love about this game is that it's two very contrasting different teams. That you can't be yin and yang in any other way. One wins with physicality. One wins with old school mentality of win within the trenches. And the other one wins with explosive plays downfield and finesse. So who is going to be able to have the better overall identity that carries on throughout this game? When you look at a team like Miami, they come in as like a top 10 run defense in the country. They have been the best run defense in college football throughout the playoffs this year. They've slowed down Ohio State. They have slowed down Texas A&M. They have been able to win behind the line of scrimmage, and that's largely due to where they have a four-man group with Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain coming off the edge, and they run such great stunts that Corey Heatherman does an exceptional job of being able to put people in the right position to make quarterbacks rush through throws, not feel comfortable inside the pocket. But then you have to throw in Trinidad Chambliss. And the problem with Trinidad Chambliss is he is an untapped potential firecracker that you don't know when the match is going to go off. And when it does, it just is going to spray everywhere. And it's just going to be entirely, you're going to get burned. You're going to have those moments of where it's going to lead to some explosive plays down the field. And when you play the backyard BS that he does play, it can lead to some problems. So what are the key elements for, I think, Ole Miss in this game? Number one, you have to be able to win with the explosive early on. You have to set the tone of this game. Because if you're Miami, if you want to play tempo and you want to slow this down and have long, methodical 7-minute, 8-minute drives, that's going to end up benefiting you because if you get to go play at your style. But if you're Ole Miss and you can get some of those deep shots down the field to John Stribling or Harrison Wallace, two guys that had over 100 yards against Georgia's secondary, that's a way to be able to say, we're going to control how this clock goes. We're going to control how we can make plays and keep you at bay. The second thing is, you got to be able to at least set up the run to get the pass going. This is the best run defense left in the college football playoff, if not the best run defense in college football this year. They held Ohio State in check. They held Texas A&M in check. They got pressure in the backfield. Kejuan Lacey had 98 rushing yards in that game against Georgia. Georgia's a good run defense. This is an elite one. You still have to be able to commit to the run game because that's been the identity of Charlie Weiss Jr.'s offense this year. People want to say, yeah, it's all about the passing attack. Yeah, we love taking the 50-yard shots down the field. You only do that because of what you can do in the ground game. So can you be able to live in second and manageable, third and short? That gives you the opportunity to open up the playbook. And the third thing is, you got to put pressure on Carson Beck. One of the things that we know about Carson Beck in this playoff, he's only going to throw for 130 yards. He's only going to throw for 145 yards. He's also going to complete 70% of his passes. He's never going to get tackled. He's never going to get brought down behind the line of scrimmage. He's had so much time in every single game. He can do his taxes. He can go ahead and write a love letter to L. Danger. He can go ahead and ask anybody, what he wants to do when his future career is over. Like, he can do whatever he wants behind that line because of the offensive line has done such a good job of keeping him upright. If you are William Eccles, Principal Ewan Manley-Ellen, Sarah Perkins, you got to be able to disrupt that backfield. If you can do those things, you get to control the way that this narrative goes. But it's a lot easier said than done because, guys, I mean, I'll just tell you right now, you thought Ohio State's offensive line was good? I think Miami's is the best left in the college. Like, you could say them and Indiana are the two, and they're very much in the running for that. And the same thing goes for the defensive line. So Trinidad Chambliss is going to have to pull another magical night out of his ass.
You made a great point earlier, and the stylistically, one is about finesse and explosive plays, and the other is traditional smash mouth football. In my experience, the smash mouth traditional team wins every time when it goes up against finesse. My concern for Trinidad Chambliss is that he plays a more refined Johnny Manziel, Diego Pavia type ball, and that it's not Johnny Manziel where he has no idea what's happening within the scheme and he's just winging it. But when he does improvise, that's when those miracle explosive plays happen. You got a lot of gifts against Georgia down the stretch. You have to admit that with Trinidad Chambliss. If Miami can take away Kewan Lacey and the running game, and they can put Trinidad Chambliss in a box to the degree that you're only rushing 4 and maybe you have a spy, then you can really get away with some things in coverage, and you can make it difficult for him if you get him behind schedule, behind the sticks, because Kewan Lacey consistently keeps them ahead of schedule. So that's a tremendous thing. Flip side for them, Miami versus this defense, I think you're going to see some instances where Ole Miss is going to be able to speed up Carson Beck, but not too much. That defensive line has been solid. The secondary's been suspect for Ole Miss over the years, or this past season, excuse me. So I'm curious to see if Beck is able to cut them up even just a little bit. But again, I don't expect that. To your point, I could see him having under 200 yards passing, and then Mark Fletcher gets the rock 25 times in this game. So I think this is a bad matchup for Ole Miss's offense against Miami's defense, and that could really make it difficult for Ole Miss.
See, I'll flip it and say that the defense for Ole Miss is going to have a fair share of struggle stopping Mark Fletcher and Shamar Brown, because Texas A&M, top 10 run defense. They give up over 130 rushing yards. Ohio State, top 5 run defense. They give up over 120 rushing yards. They averaged over 4.5 yards per play. Ole Miss ranks in the 60s when it comes to run defense. So that's an area to where you can win. But I'm telling you, if you can get pressure on Carson Beck, if you can live in the third and long situations, it gives you a slight advantage. But you also got to give a lot of credit to both of these weaponry. I don't think we talk enough about Elijah Lofton. We don't talk enough about C.J. Daniels. We're so focusing on Malachi Toney. We don't focus on Keelan Marion. Yeah. It's more than just 10. And it's also more than just Harrison Wallace downfield. Stribling makes a lot of plays. Deuce Alexander makes a lot of plays. Daquan Wright has been such a blanketed receiver, despite having a really bad second quarter against Georgia. And you throw in Deuce Alexander, you throw in Winston Watkins. So we're talking about it. One of these quarterbacks can get one of those highlight moments, that Heisman caliber play that is, that this is where momentum shifts in your favor. That might end up being a discussion to where we look back and say, oh, this is where Ole Miss was able to kind of pull away and they were the team of destiny. Oh, wait, no. This is where Miami was able to finally pull it on out.
I think Miami's going to win, and we'll pick it here in just a second. And I think we'll probably all end up picking Miami here. But I think Miami wins. I think if you think about the path to victory for Ole Miss, it is, one, you've got to be effective early. And starting a game fast is important, right? But Ole Miss also came back from a 2-score deficit at halftime. So not that that's impossible, but I do think starting a game early and immediately putting that pressure on Miami and not letting them dictate terms, trying to speed up Carson Beck, Ole Miss hitting on some stuff early, not having to settle. They settled, those field goals were incredibly long, but they also had to settle on those drives, whereas they could have taken a lead to the half had they been a little bit more precise and finished. Can they also play bend, don't break against Miami? Can they make Miami settle a few times? Miami's defense has been phenomenal. Their offense has done enough, but I don't think their offense has been phenomenal through this playoff run. And a lot of credit to A&M's defense, a lot of credit to Ohio State's, but Miami's offense hasn't lit up scoreboards by any means. If this game can be a little more higher scoring, I certainly think that favors Ole Miss, but I think Ole Miss has to convert early, get points on the board, try to get that defense worn out, run. I think they need to run 70-plus plays in this game and play the game at that tempo. If that's the case, maybe you wear down Miami a little more than what Miami likes to do. Wear you down and play bully ball with Mark Fletcher on the last drive. If this is a one-score game on the last drive, get ready for a healthy dose of Mark Fletcher running down your throat. And I don't think Ole Miss, or really anybody, maybe Indiana, can stop it at this point when it's been 55 plays of that you've gotten throughout the game. So I I don't think it happens. Again, Trinidad Chambliss being the ultimate wild card, could he have another 5-play stretch like he did in that Georgia game? Absolutely. And that's kind of their path to victory. I don't think it happens. I think Miami wins this somewhat comfortably, not a blowout. I think they'll make enough plays, and I don't have enough confidence in Miami's offense to light this up or be insane. But I don't know, something like 27-21. I do think Miami covers. Well, let me give a little love to the field goal kicker.
What is the spread?
3.5, 3.5, 4. So I think Miami does just enough. Maybe they get an explosive play from Tony in the punt return game that helps out their offense a little bit. Maybe they get a short field because those guys are monsters, and Ole Miss turns the ball over once. I'll go 27-20. I'll say that the kicker does hit a couple of long kicks, but Miami wins by a touchdown.
I'll go 30-23 Miami. I'll say this. I agree with your point entirely that if Ole Miss jumps out on the scoring early and they can play with a lead, even if it's a score and it is back and forth, I think that's the best case scenario for them.
Sure.
And let's not forget, for all the Ole Miss fans that are watching this saying, oh, you're all picking Miami, everybody's counting us out. Carson Beck has a bunch of different multi-interception games this season against lesser competition.
Yeah.
That possibility is still there. I understand we're all very high on what Miami is based on what they just did to Ohio State. There is still the distinct possibility that 30-23 score going for Miami could easily go to Ole Miss. I think this is closer to a coin flip than most, but right now on paper, I give it to Miami.
Here's the thing. I think you are 100% right. You're going to need to have that moment for Trinidad Chambliss where he just goes full on Johnny Manziel. He goes full on Diego Pavia, what he's been able to do this year. But here's the other thing that I will throw out there. Special teams are going to be really big in this game, both for Malachi Toney and Lucas Canero, the kicker for Ole Miss. He made 2 kicks of over 55 yards downfield. If you get into range, guys, even if you are to make it a 3-point game, you're walking away with points, positivity every single play. And I feel like that's something to where you can trust that as long as Ole Miss can do enough offensively to get in range, they're gaining positive traction. I think the other thing is just sometimes there are folklore stories that are told throughout the world of college football to where you just have to go ahead and tip your cap and say, damn good game. Yeah. That's just it. And that's who you are as a quarterback and who you are as a player. So against you, against everybody out there, and call me an SEC homer, call me I hate Miami, and I'm doubting the Hurricanes again, whatever it is. I don't really care. I think that once again, you're going to see that moment of just how the hell is Trinidad Chambliss able to do what we have seen consistently? How is he able to pull this out once again? And I got 31-28 final score. I think it's a game-winning field goal for Lucas Canero. Guess what? Pete Golding and boys, they're going to pull off the upset. They're going to go down to South Beach. They're going to have an opportunity without Lane Kiffin to guarantee that they are going to be the national champion for the first time in the 21st century.
I hope Cole's right.
I do too. I always want chaos. What a story that would be.
Yeah. Listen, even as a Miami hater, I very much think that they've been entertaining to watch. I'm okay not watching them in 5 Mondays from now, whenever the championship game happens. I'm very good with this being the last time I have to watch them. So, yeah, hope Cole's right, and we'll see. On the other side of the bracket, a rematch that we're getting this year, Indiana and Oregon. We'll start Big Ten here, Tom. Yeah.
Just all Big Ten.
All Big Ten.
Yeah. What it's really hard not to look at a 38-3 score against Alabama. Not that I think Alabama's a good team.
Thanks.
Well, good, but certainly not a great team. It's hard to not get caught up in that 35-point win especially because we do have biases and the logos do mean a lot to us. And even if we know that Indiana is a way better team than Alabama this year, it's still hard not to look at those logos and say, holy hell, how did that happen? I don't want to discredit the Big 12 by saying this, but I'm also pretty impressed with the way that Oregon played like a B type of game and dominated that too. I do think that too much has been said about, the Big 12 sucks, as somewhat even by Tom on our Friday recaps. Too much has been said about, the Big 12 sucks, and not enough has been given to Oregon just dominated that team with a B level performance. So 2 blowouts. I don't know what we're going to get. I kind of leaned Indiana here. But, again, that might be the way that they just demolished Alabama. So, big picture thoughts on this one.
First of all, speaking on behalf of the greatest conference in college football,
of course.
The Big 12 does suck. But at the same time,
how dare you?
Texas Tech's defense matched Oregon's offense for a lot of that game. I understand the final score is 23-0. That was what, somewhere in the teens for most of the third quarter.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head exactly. You had Dante Moore turning the ball over. You didn't have a crisp performance by Oregon's offense. On the flip side, as I mentioned earlier on this week, is that Texas Tech offense had maybe the worst day they possibly could have. Texas Tech kept giving away the football. So then you also had a situation where Oregon's defense was kind of getting a pass, not to say that they weren't playing well and causing those turnovers. Finney Jr. was outstanding in coverage. But this was, again, the easiest path. This was the Penn State path from last year, and that you dealt with James Madison at home. And again, that was another game where everybody's like, there's some turnovers that kind of make you scratch your head. They're giving up a lot of yardage, but it's against backups. So there's been all these things, I think, about Oregon for this season where you kind of scratch your head, where there's tremendous potential, but they just haven't been in situations where they put it all together. I do not think they all of a sudden put it all together against the hottest team in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Indiana smoked Alabama like a blunt at a frat party. It was hilarious. Now,
that is greatness.
But we talked about it, is that it wasn't this Ole Miss style of offense where it was just bomb after explosive after huge score and highlight reel play. It was steady, methodical football. They want to run the football first. The gift that Oregon has had with their defense for most of this season is that they have a great pass rush and they have a young, very athletic ball-hawking secondary.
Sure.
Stopping the run has been a challenge for them at points, and especially against Indiana. This Indiana team, I think, has everything going for them. Fernando Mendoza, Cole and I were talking about this off air, is that he doesn't have to do all that much. Like, granted, he had 3 passing touchdowns against Alabama, but he didn't have to throw the ball that much. They handed the ball off.
16 attempts.
Oh my goodness! And it was about 20 carries apiece for both Hemby and Black out of the backfield. So I think this is a situation where it could be another blowout.
Yeah,
it really could be. And I said it last week. I finally will admit that Indiana has arrived, because you needed to manhandle a quality opponent. Not to say Alabama's the greatest team this year by any means, but it's a quality opponent nonetheless. You handled Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. I think Indiana is primed and they're moving in the right direction. I really think the only other team that can beat Indiana is Miami right now. So I'm in favor of Indiana, but again, like, Dante Moore's ceiling is tremendous if he can play turnover-free football. And let's not forget, this is also an Oregon team that wants to run the football first, but you're going up against probably the second best defensive line in the playoff in college football.
And I would say probably the most complete defense.
Yeah, 100%. So it's not going to be easy for Oregon, I think, to move the football offensively. And I think Indiana is going to be able to do a little bit of whatever they want. It might not be, a huge scoring day by any means, but I don't know. It's hard to pick against Indiana right now.
I'll toss this to Cole. But to me, the best thing that Oregon can do is if they can shutdowns are hard.
Shutdowns are really hard. Mm-hmm.
But like if they can contain or limit the run and put it all on Mendoza's back, kind of like what Ole Miss needs to do, and probably has a smaller path to do against Miami. But if they can, which they've been really good against the run this year, if they can slow down Indiana's rushing attack at all, that will prime them for a chance. Now, they'll have to do better offensively than they've done recently. They'll have to do a lot of other things too. But slowing down that rushing attack for Indiana, which Alabama had no chance in hell of doing, and I think those guys are still running. But that, to me, is the biggest key.
Here's the one thing I will use as a caveat, and we've seen this throughout the entire college football playoff. It's hard to beat a team twice in the same season. And Indiana won that first game. Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia mollywopped Alabama in the SEC Championship game. Georgia beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss was able to come down by 2 scores and find a way to win in regulation when everyone thought the game was going to go to overtime, and they got a safety with the 2. So they were able to respond in that game. So that's going to be something that I think that what can Oregon learn from its first matchup when they played in Autzen Stadium, now playing down in Atlanta, a quite literal neutral location. Like, there is no way that you're saying, oh, we have a bunch of fans that just are close by. No, Bloomington and Eugene, Oregon are far and away from the southeastern region of the United States. So there's no home field advantage in that standpoint. Here's something that I will say if you are Indiana, though, that you got to remind yourself of. Oregon went for it on 8 times, 4th down, in that game against Texas Tech. So You remember in that game against Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, in his own territory, had to go for it on 4th down. And he felt the need, and they called a timeout, and they were able to go ahead and run another timeout, and they said, hey, you know what, screw it, we're still going to run the play. Because it felt like in that moment, it's like a boa constrictor quite literally giving you a last chance to escape. If you don't get out when he moves his body at the right time, you're done. You are going to be suffocated, and you are going to be laying dormant for the rest of your life until it goes black. Like, that will be the storyline. Can you force that situation if you are Indiana against Oregon with Dante Moore? Because if I can tell you right now, Keelan Black and Roman Hembry are going to get theirs. You're going to have to accept at this point. They run over everybody. They're physical. They're hard to tackle. Nobody brings them down at initial contact. And on the flip side, you still have 2 really good receivers in Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. Not to mention Charlie Baker, who's been another name that you could throw on in there. I know I butchered it. Charlie, why am I blanking on his name?
Becker.
Charlie Becker. Charlie
yeah.
Becker. Not to mention the other depth that you have here. So there's so much to look at when it comes to what you can do to win these type of games if you're Indiana. If you can make Dan Lanning and really Will Stein feel like his offense is going to have to panic in the first half, that gives you the opportunity to really do the boa constrictor of contorting and putting it out of reach to where it becomes a problem. And people are starting to understand it is just a different game that you're playing out there when it comes to Kirk Cignetti and when it comes to Dan Lanning. The final thing I will say about this game that I think is going to be really dire, can Oregon once again utilize its rushing game as a backbone? Because it takes a lot of pressure off of your quarterback. Dante Moore doesn't have to throw for 320 yards. He doesn't have to throw for 2 touchdowns. And he doesn't have to worry about the interceptions. And if you remember that first game, they actually ran the ball pretty well against Indiana. It wasn't an elite day. They ran it pretty well, but they had sack numbers. So you take out the sack numbers, you had like 4 guys averaging like 4.5 yards a play, 4.7 yards a play. So then you take out the sacks. If your offensive line can do a good job of going up against this defensive front, then at least you're going to be able to utilize the rushing numbers. And that could put you in manageable situations to open up the playbook. But that's a big if. That's a giant if.
To your point about the first matchup, and again, it was in October. This team dealt with a lot of injuries in late October into November. So not saying they're still dealing with them, but they're inevitably still dealing with them.
The wideouts.
Them being Oregon especially, and the defense also dealt with some issues along the defensive line. Oregon running the football at home in the loss to Indiana earlier on this season. To your point, sack yardage adjusted for with Dante Moore. However, your total at the end, 81 yards rushing, 2.7 yards per carry. Your 2 primary backs were Davison and Whittington, and they didn't even have 100 yards rushing combined. You had to have Dante Moore attempt to get involved in the quarterback run game, scramble. Obviously, that didn't work out very well. The thing I like about Indiana is that they've shown this season, this Indiana-Oregon game from earlier on in October, the Ohio State game, and Alabama. They won them all in very different ways.
Yeah.
They won the Ohio State game last-second field goal. Alabama just crushed their will to live. And then this game against Oregon back in October, you saw Fernando Mendoza go over 200 yards passing, did have a touchdown and an interception, but then on the ground, you only averaged 3 yards per carry, and you had 2 rushing touchdowns. So they were limited a bit, but Elijah Surratt, 8 for 121 and a touchdown. They can beat you with the one receiver or multiple receivers going off. They can run the football down your throat like they did against Alabama. They can play relatively mistake-free football most of the time. So I think that's the issue for Oregon against this amorphous blob that is Indiana, is they can seep through in a lot of different ways.
Indiana has also been very tested when it comes with Fernando Mendoza.
Yes.
The big time catch for Elijah Surratt in the Iowa game, the Omar Cooper touchdown, the touchdown in the matchup against Ohio State earlier in the year. You throw in the game against Oregon. He's been in that moment before to where you say, we got to have it. He's shown you can deliver.
I wonder, too, can Oregon's offense do enough? Because they scored 20 points, but 7 of that came out of pick 6, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I just don't think they can. I like Indiana here like 27-17. I think it's lower scoring. Maybe Indiana gets one late to kind of put it away. I don't think it's the blowout that we saw last round for either team. But I like Indiana to kind of control things. Oregon just can't do enough offensively. 27-17, the Hoosiers in football are going to the national championship.
And they're not going to go away quietly because look at what they've been adding in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah.
I'll be completely different than both of you because probably I'll be the one to say this until proven otherwise. This is a juggernaut that can't be stopped. I think we're talking about a 38-10 victory. I do not see a scenario to where you're watching as Robin Hemby, Keelan Black, Omar Cooper, Elijah Serrata being slowed down. I don't think you're getting enough of a pass rush generated. And the beauty about what Kirk Cincinnati has done, he's meshed together old school tactics of winning in the trenches with finesse in the passing game. And that's made them such a dynamic team. I got 30-10 victory.
I had something similar. I was thinking 35-13 Indiana. Oof. In the victory for Indiana at Autzen earlier on this season, Oregon had a lead once in that game, and it was within the first handful of possessions in the first quarter. The rest of the way, handful of ties, traded back and forth, but Indiana maintained a one-score lead throughout the entire game and then eventually put it away with a two-score lead, 30-20. I think if I'm a betting man, look at first half unders. I could look at that and say, yep, that might be possible, and that Oregon come out and throw some haymakers. I think, as I phrase it, magma from a volcano rolling down a hill that is Indiana will take over in the second half. So give me the Hoosiers 35-13.
I want to give some love to Sleeper. We'll do Sleeper in person.
We love Sleeper.
How about that? Sleeper in person.
They helped me get to the game this week.
Look at that.
Exactly.
Appreciate those people. There is some Montana State, Illinois State on Sleeper if you happen to catch this before the game. We're not doing any of those, but we are still.
I may do so on my own private account, but still.
They do offer that. Let's go with Charlie Becker, 2.5 receptions, more or less.
I'll go more. I think that you're going to spread the football around a little bit more than we give credit to.
What was that number again?
2.5. Charlie Becker, Indiana receptions.
Yeah, more. Let's go with more. He's been Mr. Reliable.
Carson Beck, 235.5 passing yards.
He hasn't hit over 200 yet in the playoff. I'll go less. Until I see it, I got to believe that he's going to hit the under.
I will also say less. He's been more about efficiency than quantity.
This feels like a trap. I'm going to go more.
Be the contrarian, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll just go more.
Secondary can give up some yardage and some points.
They like their pop passes to Tony, too.
And if there's a situation where it is trying to come from behind potentially for Miami, then yeah.
Or just higher scoring
just
than we
remember
think.
also, Zachariah Branch in that game against Georgia had multiple plays to where he was able to win in the open field.
Yep.
So it takes one pass for 76 yards, and there you go. That's half the yardage right there.
Kewan Lacey, 83.5 rushing yards. I'll tell you this, he goes more, I think they win the game.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So because I'm picking Miami, my heart wants he has more. I'm going to go less on Kewan Lacey's 83.5 rushing yardage total.
I'm going to say less. I think the game plan for Miami is stop Kewan Lacey and dare Trinidad Chambliss to drop back on second and third and long and pick you apart with multiple guys dropped in coverage.
This feels very similar to that game against Georgia the first time around where you're going to see Trinidad Chambliss lead the team in rushing, so less.
Here's a fun one. Elijah Surratt, anytime touchdown, more or less than 0.5.
Yeah, more, 100%. He at least is going to find his way into the end zone once.
Agreed.
I'll go more as well. 3 for 3. And then let's finish up with Dante Moore, 28.5 receiving yards.
You mean
DeCorian Moore?
DeCorian Moore.
Oh, DeCorian Moore.
I don't think Dante Moore – that would be a very interesting play for Will Stein. More. I'll go more.
I will also say more, but, man, it's just –
It's like 2 catches.
Yeah.
That's why I would go more.
You're talking an explosive play and a 7-yard slant. There you go.
Yeah, he's got it. Especially if they're down by a bunch.
Oh, yeah. Well, late in the game, you're not running it with Davidson and Whittington.
Right.
You're just not.
You're trying to fight for some respect. You're trying to kick a field goal in the third quarter to not get shut out
Why
against
are we
Indiana.
doing this? I know that we're here in person.
so you don't have to do the naked laugh.
We didn't have to do this alone.
CFA is the code on the Sleeper app. 100% match up to $100. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. See if my fingers are frozen enough to be placing some of these live during the game or not tonight. I bought the gloves with the texting, though, so that I could.
Oh, you brought gloves.
You'll be fine.
35 degrees.
It's going to be 42.
So the forecast changes. It's going to be kind of like into the 50s.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it could be a little bit more manageable.
That sun goes down. That
Here's the
wind
thing.
starts whipping.
Wind is the part that where you're going to
Yeah. In the bowl. The transfer portal is insane right now. DJ Lagway is at Florida State.
For today, and
they go into Virginia. Who knows where he'll land? Baylor, I'm sure, at some point. The portal's insane. Sorsby to Texas Tech. Not that that's a surprise at all. I saw a third of players are in the portal right now.
There's over 3,500 players currently in the
That
portal.
is
It's up to 4,000.
Over
it's
4,000. There we go.
Yeah, while we were flying today, Cole, some guys were flying out of their current colleges. We can take the portal anywhere you guys want it. There were some big names on the front end of it, but Rail is in there. There's Miami. I've seen Miami stuff that says that their quarterback's not even in the portal yet. So it's all over the place. Cole, you can start us out.
Can we just start with the Brendan Sorsby situation that's going on with Texas Tech? Because, listen, I understand that every team is necessarily having to go out and bring in a quarterback. And because it's the most important position in football, regardless of what level you play at, they're going to cost you the most. It's going to be a pretty penny. But Brendan Sorsby is going to be getting paid $5 million for 1 year by Cody Campbell. I understand the love for what he can do. The dual threat mobility, the accuracy. He really improved from year 1 to year 2 as a starter out at Cincinnati. But you look at those numbers that he had to close out the year. Where Cincinnati at one point was viewed as a dark horse to make it to Arlington. And they just kind of fell off a cliff. That could be credit to the offensive personnel. That could be credit to Scott Satterfield, the head coach. But I look at $5 million for him. I'm not sure that I'm looking and saying that's a $5 million quarterback. Especially when I know that there are other needs that Texas Tech is going to have to bring on it. Because they're losing David Bailey. They're going to lose Jacob Rodriguez. They're going to lose several receivers. They're going to lose some offensive linemen. And they have a good young foundation in place. And they did a good job of bringing in some pieces in the recruiting class this year. But you probably want them in 2027 to be out there starting, not 2026. And if you're spending $5 million, I get Cody Campbell has billions laid away. And he could spend $60 million and it'd be nothing. But I still feel like if you're going after a guy like Brendan Sorsby, the expectation should be you're throwing for 4,000 yards, you're putting up 30 touchdowns, you're averaging 800 yards rushing, and I'm not sure he's that type of quarterback. So the big question I'm going to look at moving forward, especially in this new day and age where the transfer portal is so transparent that players are going in every single year, and it really is just like you're going to the highest bidder, what's the better solution? Going and bringing in a very team-friendly, cost-affordable quarterback that maybe isn't as elite as like a Sam Levitt that's out there or a DJ Lagway, but still has a lot of good things. And then building around him with spending money on the offensive line, spending money on the defensive line, adding in a premier wide receiver such as a Cam Coleman if you were to go after him. And that leads you to an 11-1 season, a college football playoff or first-round bye. Or is the quarterback so detrimental? Because when you're spending $5 million on a quarterback, your expectations for what they do are drastically different than when you're spending $2 million.
Sorsby just never made sense to me as the number one player in the portal. I was genuinely confused. I thought Mestamaker was a more intriguing passing prospect than Sorsby, and Mestamaker's off to Oklahoma State, a bunch of other North Texas guys. Here's my thing. We were talking about this before. I don't think enough people are talking about the fact that Cam Coleman is in the transfer portal. We talked about it early on in the season. We were guessing of like who are the top 3 wide receivers in the sport right now. 2 of them play for Ohio State, and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and the other one's Cam Coleman.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's talking with Texas A&M, who already their cup run is over a wide receiver, it's incredible. I don't think people are talking enough about a game-changing elite wide receiver hopping in the transfer portal now. I understand the quarterback is always going to be much more valuable, but this quarterback transfer portal class, I don't think it's terribly strong. I think there's more hype around it than anything. I think there's star power in that, like DJ Lagway. Is he a name? Is he recognizable? Absolutely. I thought Josh Hoover going to Indiana and Nick Marsh from Michigan State, the wide receiver, also going to Indiana.
Yeah.
That is an absolute steal by Indiana. The fact that they're doing this while they're making a run for the national championship
not to mention building
is
up
wild.
some depth on some other positions.
Exactly, and I like what Hoover can be, and I think it's been proven now under Signetti. It's a quarterback-friendly system. They're going to take care of you. You're obviously going to have good results. So the Sorsby thing, I think you're going to see Texas Tech wind up right back where they are, and you're going to be in a situation in the playoff where you're like, hey, this guy isn't that good. He's not going to elevate us. And my confusion, maybe you guys know more than I do, I thought they liked the backup, Will Hammond, behind Baron Morton even more than they liked Morton.
Well, he is coming off a torn ACL.
Right,
so when is he going to be back? Is he going to be available week 1? And you can't afford that in a day and age where you're trying to get to the highest bidder and go to the best, get to the next level. And until we know what the rules are, Big 12 is going to be a one conference. Yeah. It's going to be a one conference bid until further notice.
Is there? You mentioned Indiana. Is there another team that you've? Now it's early, right? We're only 4 days into the portal, 5 days, 3 days, 4 days. Is there anybody else that you've seen make moves that you're somewhat impressed with? Is it a little too early for that? Stand out for each of you, and then we'll move on.
I'll be a homer. Penn State, I think, is the #1 ranked transfer portal class according to what a variety of different websites. Granted, it's like 15 Iowa State guys, but it's the right Iowa State guys that they're taking because it's been the two-way traffic in and out of State College. I think Penn State did a nice job stabilizing in that they retained young talent that were either starting already or on the cusp of being starters. So you kept guys that, one, were going to be affordable. We saw Amari Campbell saying he felt like he was undervalued by this team. And you have to be practical, I think, if you're Matt Campbell in your first year. Like, how much are you really prepared to spend? And then Rocco Becht gets, he gets grabbed in the transfer portal, and he has a quote out there that says, "I came here to win a national championship." And I hear Matt Campbell, he's talking differently because he has the resources behind him. And for me, as a lifelong Penn State fan, I'm sitting here being like, after all this BS in 2025, you guys are legitimately thinking about a national championship run in 2026, which I'm not. I don't think any Penn State fan is thinking about that. So I don't think Penn State's going to shock the world necessarily, but we also, that's the other fascinating thing, and I'm sure you guys are dealing with it too. I did a show recently, State of State, a Penn State football show, wherever you get your podcast, that basically looking at Penn State's schedule, a lot of people are saying like, well, it's a favorable schedule. I'm like, is it? We have no idea what most of these teams are going to look like because over 4,000 kids went in the portal. So you can't look at the brand anymore.
Not to mention how many team players have yet to enter the transfer portal from Oregon, from Indiana, from Ole Miss, who, again, half them could go to LSU for all we know at this point.
Right. So it's fascinating to me, but outside of them, I mean, Texas A&M's been surprisingly quiet.
They've made some very under-the-radar moves that usually end up hitting, and that's the thing with Texas A&M. They'll get the big-time name after the first week, but they'll go after some players. There's three things I would like to mention. Number one, TJ, congratulations to you. Trey Wisner is headed to Florida State to be your lead running back. So
we just
can't wait to watch.
We just lost our best two defenders on on the entire defense, but
So let's see what happens.
Another running back that will get 4 carries a game and rotate guys like crazy.
Listen. I get it, and you also got to look at what has been a very, I would say, relationships do matter. Oklahoma State, what they're able to bring on in from North Texas with Drew Mestemaker, with Caleb Hawkins, with Wyatt Young, the wide receiver, the offensive tackle. They're going to be back to playing, I think, at a level of respectability that was missing the last 2 years underneath Mike Gundy. So that's a really big time deal. I thought that the move of Isaac Brown, keeping him.
Yeah.
That's big because of Texas, from everyone that I had spoken to, was not only the favorite to land him, they believed he was guaranteed the guy that was going to be there. And so now Texas letting go of CJ Baxter, letting go of Trey Wisner. They got to pivot, make a plan. And Caleb Hawkins, who I thought was arguably the best running back in the portal at this point, he's now at Oklahoma State, and he's signed on the dotted line. So he's locked in for the long term. And then the third team that I think is really important here is USC going out and getting 2 big-time names with Terrell Anderson and Jontez Williams, Iowa State and NC State. You're losing Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. That's a way to guarantee that you elevate your play when it comes to Jaden Mayava next season. You got to be able to have a good offense and an explosive wide receiver complementary piece to what you have alongside with the upcoming passing attack. And then Jontez Williams, for whoever is going to be your defense coordinator, it is really detrimental. And the last thing I will say is that players that right now we think are going to enter the transfer portal, they may or may not. But it's very interesting to see how some players, like an Isaac Brown, re-signed with Louisville. That now ups the asking price for Jaden Baugh in a place like Florida. So just because if you're not in the portal yet, does not mean you won't enter the portal. If somebody comes calling and your agent says, hey, listen, Texas will offer you X amount of dollars.
Moving on to our last live segment of the day. What are we at right now? 44 minutes. Yeah, this is a pretty good little live show. So shout out to us. If you're watching this on replay, well, you're all watching on replay because we're not streaming it live. So everybody watching, hit the subscribe button if you're not already.
And also shout out to neighbors here in Germantown and Nashville.
Yeah.
They're hosting us. They are being very kind to us, and we're definitely going to be drinking after this.
And by the way, if you were at First Bank Stadium tonight, please come find Tom Hannifan, TJ Pittinger, Cole Thompson, any one of us. We love you. We are trying to continue to grow the brand, and we're here to watch Illinois State and Montana State. Because we're true football fans. I promise you. Anyone else who says that they're true football fans, they're not going to First Bank Stadium to watch an FCS National Championship.
And I guess we have to ask, boss, where are our seats?
I don't remember.
I'm kidding. We don't need to
about halfway up on, like, not in the corner.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, not terrible. Also not like, we're not on the sideline.
No, that's perfect.
But
that's perfect.
Good viewing angle, should be really cold. So that's the only thing I know.
Cool.
If you'd like to shit on the SEC in person, we're about to shit on one team right now here live on the show. So we go to our resident SEC homer, take a big sip of the Yingling real quick, and Kirk Herbstreit's comments about, Bama no longer getting the benefit of the doubt. I think it's very fair to say that the Saban dynasty is over. I think there was and maybe that ended the moment he left. Maybe that was tailing off, the last few years that he was there anyway. I think it's very fair to say that that is over. And the question becomes, can DeBoer have a dynasty? And certainly the answer to that is yes. Anyone in the country could have a dynasty. What are the realistic chances that that happens? Where does Alabama go from here? What's the situation with Ty Simpson? Just Alabama, big picture thoughts, Cole.
Okay, so let's start off with this. Number one, I do not think that there will ever be a dynasty built like Nick Saban again in college football. Does not mean that there can't be successful runs. I think Kirk Netty, what he's doing out in Bloomington, that will be a successful run that we will talk about. Kirby Smart, every single year, will be in the college football playoff conversation. But they won't be, you are the favorites to guarantee win it all because of just what you have. I just don't see that happening in today's NIL and today's transfer portal. It just is not the case. That being said, Alabama has a bit of a middle ground Jekyll and Hyde theory, in my opinion, because on one hand, you lose to Florida State emphatically, you lose in the SEC Championship emphatically, you lose to Indiana, and you don't even show up in the second half. They quite literally make you quit. And that's never happened before in Alabama, at least since the Nick Saban era. But at the same time, you still were able to get guaranteed wins over teams like Georgia, and you were able to beat Missouri and Tennessee. And yes, you can say that those were inflated wins, but they still were wins that were ranked at the time. Vanderbilt's a quality win. They're not, you like it, they still got 10 wins on the year. So give credit where credit's due to that standpoint. What you're going to learn in year 3 underneath Kalen DeBoer is how quickly can I change the culture that made us such a weak team at times really come on display. They're going out, they're letting offensive linemen walk. Wilton Formby was one that everyone thought, okay, he's going to be back next year. Nope, he's off in the transfer portal. They made it clear that you are not going to be back next season. They're losing Parker Brailsford. They're likely going to lose Caden Proctor. They're going out and they're looking at the Michigan product. They're looking at the NC State offensive tackle right now. They're looking to bring in multiple running backs. Hollywood Smothers from NC State. Riley Brown from Arizona State's getting mixed on in. They're looking at more wide receivers and letting go of guys like Cole Adams and Rico Scott. They thought, okay, maybe they would be contributors, but we need some big-time playmakers. We need the superstars. And I still think that there are going to be some staff changes that are going to be elevated for this team to where Kalen DeBoer is going to realize, I'm not in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not in the Mountain West. I'm not even in the Big 12 or the ACC to where a program like Alabama that may have lost a little bit of its luster is going to accept 8-4. 8-4 gets you fired up in Tuscaloosa. It just does. And if you don't believe me, the standard is always going to be the standard for any coach that's been out there because of it's Alabama. It's that script A. It's the crimson walk path all the way up to Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's the fact that you have the Walk of Champions and how many coaches sit outside with the bronze statues of number of championships that are added on to their name. So there's a reason why they believe that you're supposed to meet a certain expectation. And I think that they've done a good part of making sure that they've assessed who are players that they believe are still the foundation, who are going to be gone. But you got to win in year 3. And when I mean winning year 3, it's not a 10-2 record. It's not an 11-1 finish. It's not an SEC title or guaranteeing that you go to the college football playoff and win 2 games because you won a game and you won 34-7 after a 17-0 start. It's about the physicality. It's about we're winning in the trenches. We're playing bully ball that was the reason people feared us when we walked into their stadium. Because right now, Alabama isn't a threat. Nobody is looking at Alabama and saying, oh, this is a team that we need to be terrified of if we are down by 7 or if we're down by 10. Because when I watched Indiana play, it was 17-0. I think I told you guys this on the recap show on Friday. It felt like 31-0 for Alabama. Yeah. Like you weren't coming back from that because of it's just built different. Alabama has to get back to that standard. And I think that they want to give Kalen DeBoer an opportunity to prove that he can do those things. But at the same time, year 3 is a make-or-break year in terms of what will be your identity. Because after a while, it's like when you get into a pattern and a repetition, it's so hard to break a certain thing that you just are so accustomed to. This is who you are. This is what your identity is. Do you want the identity of Alabama to be soft? If you continue to play the way that you did against Indiana, against Florida State, against Georgia, lifeless in the second half, no momentum on the rushing attack, it's going to be, once again, Yeah, we may go 10-2, but we're 10-2 because of our schedule. We're in the playoff because we lucked out with the 16-team format. We host the playoff game and we still get 24 points. And that's not acceptable to place in Tuscaloosa.
Remember how, Tom, Alabama used to be so nasty and just they beat teams before they got off the bus. And you remember I'll tie Florida State into this because it was a big talking point in the offseason. Remember when USC was doing all that stuff when they played Saban and maybe Atlanta or somewhere, and they they were walking out, and then they lost that game by 55 points. And then we all assumed, because again we get such into a logo, a brand bias, we all assumed as a Florida State fan, when Tommy Castellano said, "Yeah, they can't stop me," I thought, crap, they're going to beat our heads in. Yep. They are going full out Alabama. Brother, why did you have to say that? And
they talked about it at SEC Media Day.
Yes, all addressed will be handled and all this stuff. And I think everyone in the country thought, maybe outside of that locker room in Tallahassee, and I don't even know if they fully believed it, but everybody in the country thought this is going to be an ass beating, and they're going to make them regret saying that. And then Alabama showed up on Saturday, August 30th at 3:30 p.m. and did jack shit. Yeah. And there wasn't even, you think about Alabama just being so nasty. And not only were they most talented, they were the meanest, and their defense was just so suffocating, and you couldn't run the ball. And God forbid you say anything about them. And Nick Saban, tattoos that on guys' foreheads and says, I'll, go kill them. And that is just not the same level of nastiness to where you can literally disrespect Alabama and get away with it. And, that is they've got work to do. Cole's completely right. They have to change the culture there to get back to not being soft. Alabama is a very talented team. They're still a top 3 talented team in the country. There's no question about that. That said, they're soft.
I think you have to throw out the previous mystique of Alabama, and you have to judge it exclusively on what it's been. There was never a circumstance where Nick Saban was going to retire and you were going to have a perfect bridge to another national championship caliber coach and team immediately after. What you're probably looking at here with Alabama is another 2 to 3 head coaches. Realistically, this is probably going to be another decade of this up and down mediocrity. Not to say that it's mediocre that you made the college football playoff and you got into the second round. A lot of teams would kill for that.
Sure.
You have to stop looking at the logo right now with Alabama. You have to go based on what the team is on the field. And they're subject to all the other craziness. We've been talking about the portal. Every roster is going to turn over so significantly that you honestly have no idea what the team is going to look like the following season. Yeah. The tone of the program has clearly changed, and that you have the tradition of Alabama and the expectations of fans, the administration, maybe even the existing team itself. But I think that natural blend with what Kalen DeBoer's culture is, not to say that it's soft, it's just inherently different. It was never going to be a carbon copy of Nick Saban. How many schools have gone from a national championship caliber coach and a legend to another one back to back? It rarely happens. Rare. So Alabama, yes, it's very weird seeing clunky quarterback play, inconsistent threats at the skill positions, an offensive line that can't block anybody, a defense that really doesn't have any bite, no real pass rush, and they don't try and put people in the hospital for crying out loud. Yeah, it feels very different, but this isn't Alabama, and I've said it for a while now. Brands don't mean anything anymore, unfortunately, in college football.
They really don't. Look at Clemson. We never thought that. Look at the ups and downs of Michigan. Yeah. Look at Clemson. Look at Penn State. Look at Florida State. Look at these brands that are so wildly swinging. And then it goes the other way too. Look at Indiana. Look at Vanderbilt. We get so wrapped up. Texas Tech, yes.
Well, I'll throw listen,
BYU.
I give them so much flack. But BYU, listen,
yes.
They're an 11-win team.
We see, and I know there was quarterback injury and stuff. Look at Utah going from winning Pac-12s to a terrible season to now just outside the college football playoff. Look at Miami, which I know they are a brand, but look at what they've done the last several years. Look at where Florida's been.
Look who won the ACC.
Yes, this is. Oh God. This is very much a different sport that we're playing, where your logo now. There are probably still 2 logos in this sport that we could say are immune to this for now.
Ohio State, Georgia?
Yes. Yeah. But would it be that shocking if we got 3 years from now and Kirby did something or went off here or the sport is changing. Now, right now, I think Ohio State and Georgia are somewhat immune to that, but there's no saying that in 3 years they won't be. Like, that's just the volatility of the sport is, I think it's actually good for fans. I think that the fact that we're going to have a national champion that we've either never seen before or is from the 60s or is from 2001, I think that's actually good. I actually like that. I don't have to see Lakers Celtics every single year to feel like the sport is in a good spot. So I think that's good for the sport. It's really hard for fans who got accustomed to flying first class to all of a sudden get on a Breeze flight and say, yeah, we not even a Breeze flight, just business.
Yeah. Spirit 26B. Right?
Yeah.
Granted, if any of these airlines want to sponsor us,
we'll
change our mind.
Yeah, Breeze is great if you would like to hit my DMs. Yeah,
Everyone does.
but that's a change for the fans.
I will say the thing that you guys both brought up is that brand logo, you need to take it out of consideration. You have to look at numbers, you have to look at metrics, and you have to look at what we've been able to see with development of talent. Because a program like Indiana did a good job of targeting names in the portal, like a Fernando Mendoza. But a lot of those players were brought in from JMU. And the thing that is so important with that is that's the culture. That's the identity of Kirk Cignetti and what he's been able to establish the last 2 years to make sure everyone's on the same page. Everyone has the exact same understanding of what we expect when you come into the building. And there are other programs like Auburn. You hire Hugh Freeze, and you spend a lot of money, and you go out, you bring in a ton of people that you think are going to be difference makers for your roster, and you go 5-7. Culture in this day and age is more important than anything else. And then I would think that the money that you have in NIL to be able to retain players and bring in players is second. But you have to be able to have both of those in check. As long as you have that, you have a shot. Because if we're in a day and age to where you will see Alabama miss the playoff, and instead you're going to see an Oklahoma State go, and you will see a BYU go, and a South Carolina, and a Mississippi State. And you know what? If you love college football as a whole, it's great for the sport.
You talk about culture. Look at the 4 teams in the playoff left in the playoff right now. All 4 incredible cultures. Ole Miss is to be able to. Obviously, Mario has built something very good with a culture there, where people had questions about Beck. And that has been a great fit. They don't ask him to do too much. That's fine. Obviously, Indiana. Obviously, Dan Lanning. And then Ole Miss to be able to withstand all they're doing. The other is NIL.
And
they're investing.
Every single one of the quarterbacks is a transfer portal quarterback.
Yeah. They are investing in culture and NIL.
Dabo,
and
you need to learn this style, buddy. You need to learn this style.
Congratulations on Elliott Washington II, by the way. That'll do wonders for your
don't worry.
secondary.
He hired what's his name back as his offensive coordinator, so it's all good.
They're set.
Here's the other thing. I've hated preseason rankings for the longest time. I think they skew things in a direction that you really have no information. You're trying to go off of returning production. How do you do that this offseason, for crying out loud? So, at what point are we supposed to attempt to rank teams that we haven't seen play?
Okay, so I have a New Year's resolution for college football just in general.
Shoot.
We're in a new day and age. It's 2026. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New
It's the
Year.
last day I'm allowed to say this. The New Year's resolution, let's not rank teams until week 6 of the college football season. It gives you a clear understanding of who ranks where. Because if you're going in blind, when you go in with the pre-notion for the AP poll, and it's 9 SEC teams and every single one of them disappoints, but there's 2 ACC teams that are really impressing, and then a bunch more that are in the middle, same thing for the Big 12, it gives you more fair, balanced, competitive play. And now you're not looking at teams. Because a part of the thing was, Vanderbilt has a quality top 15 win against a 4-8 South Carolina team.
Yeah.
And the same thing can be said about a team like Illinois that was a top 10 win for Indiana that proceeded to finish the year 8.
Yeah, Clemson and LSU, same thing, right? Preseason rankings, and people have always hated them. They're worse now than ever. But you used to be able to project better because the rosters were relatively how many true freshmen were coming in and making an impact? Not many. How many transfers were there? A couple, but not And you could evaluate them well enough. I remember whenever Golson transferred to Florida State, we kind of knew what we were getting, right? And the rest of the roster remained the same. Dalvin Cook was still on that team. You knew that Florida State was going to be probably about a 10-win team. Well, guess what they finished with that year? 10 wins. And so they started around 12 and they finished around 12. And that's fine. It's impossible to do now. And that's one example. Obviously there are others. But it is a crap show now. And so, there is no need for preseason rankings. They will do them because people talk about them, click on them, and we'll do segments on them.
We're going to do it too.
But it is a crap show. So, all right, boys. an hour here at Neighbors in Germantown in Nashville.
Yeah.
There's 4 other locations. If you don't want to fight any traffic, go to those. But we appreciate them a ton for having us. Boys, I'm excited to hang out today. I'm excited to watch football. I'm excited to get a beer and upgrade this. But thank you guys for hanging out.
That's what I'm doing right after this. Yeah. Check out Montana State versus Illinois State. I think it's getting the primetime slot on ESPN.
7:30 on ESPN, 6:30 here.
We have 4 college football games left after the Division III national title game last night, which I definitely watched.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
See, you're
Blaha kid's the Heisman Trophy
you're
winner
an
at
even
that
bigger
level.
football fan than I am because I didn't even watch that.
I didn't know
was
it was
great.
on.
Yeah.
I was too busy dealing with NFL stuff.
I was packing.
I was watching instead. Both Pittsburgh and Baltimore tried to find a way to mess up for each other.
That was horrific.
Which is fantastic for the Houston Texans.
Someone had to lose, but
Someone had to win.
they
No,
found a
someone
way.
had to win
Somebody
that game.
unfortunately had to win. So, all right, this is the Power 2 on College Football Addiction. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you guys soon.